As said, I'm Dr. Lynn Rubalcaba. I'm the Administrator of Educational Technology for the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I have been in my position just about a year and a half now. It's a new position because the concept of technology and corrections is a new concept, particularly in California, where the pat answer to any question about technology in the hands of an integrated individual has always been no. We've made some strides forward, as have some of the other smaller correctional systems throughout this country. And we think that we have landed on a solution that will allow our learners to make some advances. So again, blended learning in the correctional environment. So why is it important? What is it that should interest you in why we want to provide any kind of technology to someone who's locked up? What we've seen with our population is that about 20%, according to Stanford University, of inmates in California have a basic level of literacy. 20% of almost 100,000 men and women who've committed crimes that have landed them in an institution for longer than 12 months are only barely able to function. Now, imagine the way that limits your ability to participate in social and economic activities in your communities to contribute to your own well-being. That is incredible. So we have a population of people who read at the 8th grade level when they read and are about 40 years old. So we're talking about adults who have made choices in their life to survive rather than to thrive. And I'm not trying to excuse anyone who commits a crime, but these are just some interesting statistics to consider when you're looking at why we would want to work with inmates, students who need some skills, and what it is that propels us to want to give them the types of experiences that we're currently working on. So the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation currently operates 32 institutions throughout the state. We serve more than 95,000 inmates between level 1, which is the lowest level, people who've committed petty crimes, theft, those kinds of things, all the way through level 4, which is referred to as LWOP, or life without parole offenders. So these are gentlemen, level 4, who really don't have an avenue for seeing anything outside of the institution. So they've come to the realization, most of them, that they need to make a life for themselves inside the institution in hopes of proving to someone at some point that their sentence maybe can be reconsidered and that they've developed the skill set to be a positive and contributing member of society. In pursuit of doing that for everyone, because no one's goal is to punish someone endlessly. Our goal is to provide skills. We are the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation with an emphasis on the R, the rehabilitation. So we provide rehabilitative programs. Each of those institutions has a school inside of it. All are accredited schools serving more than 30,000 students in vocational education, adult basic and secondary education, and college programs. And you can see that we have some of our college program here. We have Norco College, Cerro Coso College. Those are two of our community college partners, and Chaffey and California State University systems, which are some of our bachelor's degree programs. So we offer education to students no matter where they land on the spectrum. If they are early readers all the way through earning a master's degree, we can support them. We support them in a number of vocational pursuits: welding, plumbing, electrical works, cosmetology, small engine repair, even coding at one of our institutions. So we're really kind of looking at this as a way to give all of those students in all of those levels the ability to contribute either to a life that has meaning, which we know keeps them out of, keeps them out of problems in the institutions, lowers the level of violence in our institutions, and prepares them in some cases for reconsideration, either if they go to parole board or if they're life without parole, in potentially getting a revision of their sentence that will allow them to potentially receive parole and go back out into the community where they can live a productive life. So education in CDCR is about that, about providing opportunities, about looking at an individual, not for their crime, but for how we can make the best and help them make the best of whatever has been given to them. So why are we providing education? Again, incarcerated people who participate in our programs are 48% less likely to recidivate than those who do not. They don't come back to us. We've proven that. 75% of those who reoffend do so due to an inability to find stable employment. And what is part of stable employment in the 21st century? What does that mean? Well, it means first being able to find those jobs. And it's not a simple matter of going and picking up a newspaper and looking at the classified ads any longer. It's having digital skills. It's having the ability to open a computer, to find websites where jobs may be listed, to apply online for some of those jobs, to communicate electronically with potential employers. All of those things are part of a job search. And we recognize that our population lacks the technical skills that they need to be successful. They simply have never had the exposure to technology. So what we've decided, and there's at the top, I can't see it, there it is. What we've decided in CDCR is that we need to provide not just education, but technology-based education to our students, no matter where they live, whether it's beginning learning or someone who's just finished a plumbing program and they're ready to go out into the world, to make sure that they can access the things that they will need to access to be successful and be part of that population that doesn't come back to us. We looked at a number of different approaches. We considered a completely online educational system. We considered hybrid. We've considered no technology whatsoever. And what we landed on was the fact that our learners need the human component, much more so than other learners who may be more self-sufficient. Our learners need the human component. They have a need to make connections, to learn how to build healthy relationships, and to see a person in a position of authority, which teachers are, all of you are in positions of authority, as an ally. They need to be able to see that person as working in their best interests, and they need to understand how to ask questions, self-advocate, and really participate with other humans. So when we're doing that, how do we make sure that we give them the technology skills that they need while maintaining the human component? And the answer was blended learning for us. We fell on the side of understanding that technology provides them with the ability to study on their own. It provides us the ability to reach all of our students, even in times when we are not able to bring them into our space physically. In corrections, there is a lot of downtime. And so we need to be able to bridge that gap. And replacing humans definitely wasn't our answer. So blended learning, proven to generate improved learning outcomes across the spectrum of learners from kindergarten all the way through adult learners, was where we decided our best opportunity would exist. About 97% of jobs in the 21st century require at least low-level digital skills. We can provide more than low-level digital skills in a blended learning environment, and it would really be our opportunity to set our learners up for success. Technological proficiency associated with increased pay and job resiliency. Resiliency is another skill that our students lack. They have never learned to stick with something. They're impulsive, they make rash decisions. They tend to abandon things quickly in favor of something that will give a more immediate reward. What we've seen in blended learning is that they're learning to stick with it. They'll persevere. We can use our learning management system to view statistics, and we see that our learners will watch videos over and over and over until they grasp a concept. They'll spend more time on a page when they're having a difficult time with that concept. And so they're really learning that resiliency, the ability to persevere, the ability to stick with it, just simply by having that device and having a non-judgmental space where they can continue learning and then come back to the human component, that teacher who they see as an authority with those deep questions, the questions that they've formulated over hours of independent study that they're now able to do. Why do we lock down? So if you've never worked in a correctional environment and don't understand what I mean by lacking access to our students, we have frequent safety and security lockdowns that can occur because of violence, can occur because there's been contraband noted in a housing unit, any number of reasons that you can imagine. Our institutions can be locked down from anywhere from 24 hours to 2 months. So we may not have access physically to our learners. Again, that blended learning, the technology can fill in for that space when they can't get to their teachers, when they can't spend the time in the space of the human that they need to make the connections. Clearly, medical restrictions for COVID were a huge issue for everyone. They were even more so in the correctional environment and continue to be. We are a petri dish. If one person in a housing unit has any kind of virus, whether it's the flu or something else, it's going to spread very rapidly through the population. So COVID-19 protocols were essential to us protecting the health of our students and our populations. They continue to be so. We continue to have yards or housing units or even whole institutions that go on lockdown to prevent movement of students in ways that could spread medical concerns. So we're always going to have those disruptions, and we decided that blended learning would allow us the opportunity to move from, that true blended situation into some distance learning and then rapidly back to where we wanted to be as soon as we were possibly able to do so. Okay, so what are our challenges? Now that I've told you why we did it, what challenges do we see and what have we encountered in the 16 months that we have had computers on the ground and in the hands of our students? The first was stakeholder buy-in, and you probably see this in your environments. Technology is expensive. Technology is scary to some folks who've been in the educational environment for so long that they didn't have the opportunity to learn with technology as a fundamental skill or an integrated part of their teaching and learning. So stakeholder buy-in was difficult for us, particularly with correctional officers who believe that there's always potential for a security breach. So we had to win them over by proving that we were ready and able to secure devices and to get students to the point where they could use the devices for their benefit without causing a problem for the institution. Our second challenge was student proficiency with technology. We have a range of students. We have some who come to us in their early 20s who've grown up as digital natives and they have had devices on the outside. They learned when they were in school, at least in part, with technology. We also have a number of students who are of the age where they didn't have a computer on the outside. They've never used a computer for anything. So when I hand them a laptop and it has a trackpad, they don't know what to do with it. So we had to overcome that diverse spectrum of people who were learning with technology and who were at different places on the road to proficiency. At the same time, our faculty proficiency was significantly lacking. Our faculty who taught inside CDCR, and I don't want to shock anybody, but until a year ago, could not have access to the internet in their learning space. They had no technology. They had smart boards, but they couldn't be connected to pretty much anything. They had very limited ability to show PowerPoints and to do things that, were right there in front of them. They didn't necessarily have online educational resources. They didn't have the ability to use a learning management system. Everything was manual. So we have a group of folks who are learning alongside their own students how to become proficient, how to use the tools, and to really explore the online resources for teachers that can make learning engaging and dynamic. And so we are working with our teachers to build a community of learners whose enthusiasm for technology is as great as ours. And I'm happy to say that we have seen definite strides, and teachers who have been in the system teaching for a very long time who are just clamoring to get a hold of a computer, to get into sites, asking for us to approve sites where they can reach online educational resources, digital textbooks, other things that will improve the learning engagement of their students. And it's really been refreshing to watch the shift in our faculty from folks who never thought they'd have computers to now I can use a computer and talk to my student when they're not here with me. The safety and security restrictions that we face, we still don't have direct connection to the internet. So we are doing blended learning with our internal intranet that's very, very limited. It does not allow our students to access many of the resources that we would like them to because websites are easy to exploit. So it takes time for us to build out websites, to build out security, and to get our students to the point where they can work with some online educational resources. But it's a huge safety and security restriction that we are slowly overcoming. One of the things I'll tell you is we cannot use Google at all. It's sort of a hard stop for us at this point. It limited us in that we couldn't choose Chromebooks for our student devices because Google is easy to exploit and it doesn't meet our safety and security requirements. So we are a Windows-based system still and will continue to be so for the near term and probably long-term future. We also have a need to monitor our student-created content. Our students cannot have content that violates safety and security. We know students like to pass notes. That's no different in the adult corrections environment. So we had to be able to monitor student-created content, and we needed to be able to monitor the actual device itself. So the ways that we worked with that ranged from putting some tracking software on the device to a keystroke monitor on the device and a central file storage that duplicates what they store locally. They have 100 megabytes of storage, and we duplicate that into a central file storage that can be audited by our safety and security officers at any time. We still struggle with some outdated and incomplete Wi-Fi coverage. State employment being what it is, we understand that budgets drive everything we do, and we are not able to get enough funding to cover all of our institutions with wireless, and many of our institutions are severely limited because of their age in what can be installed. So we are battling that on a daily basis, but the resiliency again of our students has proven that they'll find areas where they can catch a signal. They'll sit down against a wall in the yard and they'll continue learning when they should be outside exercising. They'll choose learning. They'll choose to participate in school rather than anything else that they could be doing. And again, as I said before, correctional environments are prone to learning disruptions. So it could be any time in the middle of a class or in the middle of a day when the students are recalled to their housing units and we can't continue teaching. So we are trying with our limited Wi-Fi coverage to make sure that we can bridge those gaps and continue our blended learning when our students can't come into our spaces. So what does it look like? 15 to 18 months into this, what does this look like for us in our system? We have about 8,000 devices currently in the hands of our students. We've overcome a lot of those obstacles. Many still exist, but we have about 8,000 devices that are out there. They are thin client Windows-based laptops that don't have a whole lot of sophistication, but they accomplish the goals we need them to. Excuse me. They have a small amount of memory, no external device connectivity, which means no mice, no flash drives, nothing except a monitor, because we do have some inmate students that have visual impairments and they need a larger monitor. We have an 11.6-inch screen that's not easy to see. So we did leave the HDMI port open so that they could attach a monitor, or they could attach to a smartboard and a PowerPoint or anything else they needed to present in their classes. That's been a huge shift. They were never able to do that in the past. Now we have teachers asking them to do presentations all the time. It's shifted the dynamic for them, certainly, so that now they are up in front of the class a lot more than they used to be. And it's very interesting to watch. They're embracing it. They love being on stage, and it's really working well to extend their learning and help them understand really what a student on the outside would face if they were in college or in another adult learning program where they were making presentations to their peers. We use the Canvas Learning Management System. That is our standard within CDCR. We use it with 19 college partners, currently have 200 college courses. We expect when spring kicks off here on Monday that will be closer to 400 that are active in Canvas throughout our college partners. It's resulted in improved quality of work. Our students are only able to write with binder paper and a golf pencil, if you can imagine. They don't have the ability to have pens and paper and everything that we would have. They are limited in what they can use. Now they have a computer that has Microsoft Word and they can type term papers, they can type assignments. It's improved the quality of work that they've been able to do. They've shown increased digital literacy skills. Many of our students, including the gentleman at the lower corner of the screen, have completed projects that we now use as job aids for student learning across the state. What they did was take the device, take the guidance that we provided them, and then put it in new user terms that work for students who've never used computers or who've been away from technology for quite some time. They're teaching one another, they're embracing that role, and they're really becoming resources for their peers. We hear request after request when we go into the institutions from people who aren't in education and didn't see education as something that they ever wanted to pursue, who now see the devices, the ability to learn how to use a computer, and they want into education. So it's increasing our wait list, which is a great thing, because now we can justify more instructors and more programs and more funding. If you want to look at those pictures just for a moment, what you see on the left-hand side is sort of the traditional learning environment as it existed in institutions that even had student computers. The giant CRT at the top, that giant screen, or at the bottom, you see the students that were all sitting in a classroom in front of a desktop. And once they left that space, the learning ended. They couldn't take it with them. On the right-hand side, you can see students who are now in classrooms where we've replaced the desktops with the laptops. They are in their housing units, so that's a day room. They're continuing to work on their college work or their high school work, whatever they are enrolled in, and they're learning in their housing units and they're embracing it. And then, as I mentioned, the gentleman at the bottom, he's learning in the yard. They're given free time in the yard. He chooses to bring his computer out into the yard and continue learning because he's that dedicated to his education and to obtaining the knowledge and the skills that he needs to be successful when he leaves us. So, cost versus benefits, what's it like? The average cost of technology provided to any one of our students is about $700. The device pictures that you see here are the we actually use. They are secure devices. They're pretty durable. They're the ones that would have been issued to the K-12 environment when we were during the COVID-19 lockdowns. And that $700 includes the device and the licenses. What that gets us back is every one of those $700 equals $4 to $5 in savings to society due to reduced incarceration costs just in the 3 years after students are released. They don't come back to us. They save us money. It's actually an excellent investment in the people that we're putting back into society to give them a device and allow them the opportunity to be successful. This is just a few things that I've heard as I went throughout the state working with students, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. No one ever valued me. Imagine feeling that way about yourself until they saw that someone would put a computer in their hands and now they can pursue their college degree. Being given a computer makes them feel human. A person who's 62 is getting out, he can find a job, and it's hope. It's hope for people who never thought they were worth anything and never thought learning was for me, but my laptop changed that. These are actual things they've told me, and this is what makes my job worth doing. And I hope it's what makes you see why even putting a computer in the hands of a student that isn't incarcerated to keep them from coming to us is worth the investment that you're making, time and energy. Thank you.